Let's be honest, it wasn't that long ago when shopping at Lidl came with a side of social judgment. You'd see those plastic bags that looked a bit too thin, you'd walk through an aisle layout that felt wrong somehow, and you'd see branding that practically screamed budget. For years, Lidl was the place you popped into quietly when no one was looking. The secret you didn't share with your friends. But fast forward to today, and the world has completely flipped. You'll find families, foodies, and even middle-class millennials openly flexing their £1.99 artisan sourdough from Lidl on social media. The transformation of Lidl in the UK is a tale of massive disruption, of consumer rebellion, and a strategic slap in the face to the UK's so-called Big Four supermarkets of Tesco, Sainsbury's, Asda, and Morrisons. In a market where these giants once reigned with unchecked power, Lidl fundamentally changed the entire game. So, what exactly happened? How did this no-frills German discounter end up at the very center of a British retail revolution? And more importantly, what does its incredible rise say about how Brits shop, what they truly value, and the future of every supermarket in the UK? To understand Lidl's rise, you have to first understand just how broken things were. For decades, the Big Four dominated UK grocery retail with a kind of smug confidence. Each had its own carefully crafted brand personality. Tesco was the reliable all-rounder, the default choice for millions, while Sainsbury's was the slightly posher one where you'd go to feel a bit fancy. Asda had that big, bold American Walmart vibe, while Morrison's was your dependable northern uncle who really knew his meats and pies. The prices they charged weren't outrageous, but they certainly weren't friendly either. The quality was fine. The whole experience was incredibly predictable. Then came the 2008 financial crash and everything changed. Suddenly, household budgets all across the UK got squeezed tighter than ever before. Wages stagnated while rent and the cost of daily expenses soared. People desperately needed to stretch every single pound, and that's when the German discounters Lidl and its rival Aldi started to creep into the national conversation. They had actually been in the UK since the 1990s, but until then, they were seen as fringe operators. Lidl was that weird place your nan might go to buy tinned peaches, a random windbreaker, and a power drill, all in the same bizarre visit. But in this new economic reality, that strange combination of unfamiliar offerings, cheap prices, and no-frills presentation started to make a whole lot of sense. The idea of getting food that tasted the same, and often even better, for half the price was absolutely essential. What made Lidl especially lethal to the Big Four was its laser focus on brutal efficiency. Where a traditional supermarket would overwhelm you with 20 different brands of pasta, Lidl gave you just 2. Both were their own private label, and both were shockingly good. The quality was surprisingly high. The design was clean and minimalist, and the price tags made you seriously question why you ever spent £2.50 on a box of cornflakes in the first place. But Lidl's true genius was completely shifting the public's perception of value. Suddenly, being a savvy shopper became a badge of honor. People were posting recipes built entirely around Lidl ingredients. Students and pensioners were bonding online over a £6 bottle of wine that tasted like something 3 times the price. Over time, that old stigma of, "Oh, you shop at Lidl?" completely flipped into a sense of pride. In a post-austerity UK, getting more for less became aspirational. And let's not forget the secret weapon in Lidl's arsenal, the infamous middle aisle. Officially known as the middle of Lidl, this was a treasure trove of random non-food items that changed twice a week. One day you'd find high-quality cycling gear, the next it would be garden furniture, paddleboards, or a professional-grade espresso machine. The middle aisle generated a powerful sense of urgency and FOMO, because if you saw something you liked, you had to buy it then and there, or else it would be gone by your next visit. Of course, the Big Four didn't just sit back and watch their empires crumble, they fought back, hard. They slashed prices, they frantically revamped their own brand ranges to compete. Tesco introduced its club card-only deals, forcing you into their loyalty scheme for the best prices. Sainsbury's launched Nectar prices, and Asda pushed its price-matching rollback schemes. But they all faced the same fundamental problem. They were structurally bloated. They had too many product lines, too much expensive overhead, and too many legacy costs from their massive, inefficient superstores. They simply couldn't match Lidl's nimbleness or its uncanny ability to undercut prices while still turning a healthy profit. And more importantly, they couldn't fake the cultural shift. Lidl had genuine momentum. Then came the COVID-19 pandemic, and the entire retail landscape was thrown into chaos. Overnight, shopping habits were completely transformed. People wanted in-and-out convenience, lower bills, and shops that were close to home. While the big chains struggled with overwhelmed online delivery systems and waves of panic buying that left shelves empty for weeks, Lidl doubled down on its core formula of keeping it simple and cheap. They kept the stock moving, and shoppers rewarded that discipline in droves. By 2020, Lidl and Aldi were joint top on the list of the UK's fastest growing supermarkets. But here's the real twist in the story. Lidl forced a massive shift in how all supermarkets present themselves. If you walk into a Lidl today, you'll find award-winning wines, posh bakery sections with artisanal bread, and food packaging that looks eerily similar to premium, high-end brands. They've perfected the psychological trick of making you feel like you're getting a luxury experience while spending less. It's budget on the outside, but bougie on the inside. And while the Big Four used to laugh at Lidl's no-frills approach, now they're all desperately copying its moves. Now, let's talk numbers. As of 2024, Lidl controls over 8% of the UK grocery market, which might not sound like a massive number on its own, but it's hugely significant in an industry where even a 1% shift represents billions of pounds in revenue. Every single one of the Big Four has seen their market share erode. Morrison's, in particular, has taken a serious beating, dropping from 3rd place in the 2010s all the way down to 5th, falling behind Aldi with Lidl snapping at its heels. The total market share held by the Big Four has now dropped below 65% for the first time in decades. For context, in 2013, that number was closer to 76%. And the momentum hasn't slowed down one bit. Lidl is aggressively moving into underserved rural areas, busy city centers, and even converting old bank buildings into compact urban shops. Their lean business model allows them to expand so aggressively because they don't need massive floor space or huge armies of staff to operate. Plus, their logistics network, designed with legendary German precision, is optimized to move goods quickly, cheaply, and with minimal waste. Lidl's disruption is also deeply cultural. The way people talk about supermarkets online reveals a profound shift in our collective values. There's a genuine sense that Lidl hasn't sold out. It still feels like the underdog even while it's thriving. It hasn't flooded every ad break with cheesy slogans. It hasn't watered down its core identity to chase every single demographic. It has stayed true to its mission, and that mission is now winning. In the middle of a cost of living crisis, when every purchase feels like a stressful negotiation, Lidl's clarity and simplicity are incredibly comforting. There's no loyalty card required to get the best price. There's no exclusive club to join. There's no cryptic pricing. You just walk in, fill your trolley, and leave with both your dignity and your wallet fully intact. Even the perception of product quality has been turned on its head. Lidl has invested heavily in sourcing from British producers, now working with over 650 UK suppliers. They're betting on local supply chains, which keeps their costs down and makes their supply far more reliable. Ironically, this strategy gives Lidl more resilience in the face of Brexit and global supply chain chaos than some of the UK's own legacy retailers. Of course, Lidl's rise hasn't been without controversy. Critics point to its potential impact on small independent businesses and local high streets. Not to mention the lack of choice in certain categories and occasional complaints about short-dated produce. Others argue that its success has accelerated the homogenization of British retail. These are all fair points, but they don't erase the core truth that Lidl made the entire system better by forcing the giants to finally compete on price and quality. It pressured them to lower their prices, rethink their profit margins, and respect the intelligence of their customers. Even if you don't personally shop at Lidl, you are likely benefiting from the ripple effect it has created across the entire industry. Ultimately, the story of Lidl in the UK isn't just about one company winning market share, it's about a fundamental reset in the relationship between the shopper and the shop. For years, the Big Four told the public what good value was. Lidl flipped that script entirely and let the public decide for themselves. In doing so, it exposed just how out of touch and complacent the incumbents had become. But what do you reckon? Is Lidl's dominance a genuine win for the British shopper, or are they sacrificing choice and hurting suppliers for the sake of a bargain? Did the Big Four simply get what they deserved for decades of complacency, or are we just romanticizing a discounter that's playing the capitalist game better than anyone else? And as Lidl becomes a giant itself, can it possibly hold on to that underdog magic, or is it destined to become the very thing it disrupted in the first place? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear your take. And if you enjoyed the video, give us a like, hit subscribe, and tap the bell so you don't miss any more proper deep dives like this. Cheers for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.